since 6:59, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call. Just a few of us here tonight. Jessica? Here. Rod?
Here.
Jim?
Here.
And I am also here. Meeting has been properly announced. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to 1B. Do I have a volunteer to read the mission statement?
I will. The Mount Horeb Area School District, in partnership with the community, is dedicated to nurturing, education, and challenging all students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, and self-fulfilled members of society.
Thank you, Jim. Moving on to 2. 2A is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jessica, second by Rod. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 2B, approval of the November 7, 2022 board meeting regular minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Rod, seconded by Jim. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 2C, approval of the November 15, 2022 special board meeting and executive meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rod, seconded by Jessica. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 3, addressing the board. 3A is recognition of the 2022-2023 Mount Horeb High School girls golf team for academic excellence. Would you like to start us out?
Yeah, well, we're pretty excited to have the golf team here. Thank you for coming tonight. And we're going to turn it over to Colleen to say a few words.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. So each fall we're notified by the Wisconsin Golf Association of whether it's a high honor, honorable mention. Of course, this amazing team was received the high honors. We were notified in October. The Golf Association, I looked it up just to see about how many schools receive some type of honor. The number was higher this year, but what was really an impressive number, because you guys were part of it, was the average this fall for the Wisconsin girls golf teams that were in this category of the high honors was 3.837. That's impressive. And whether you know this or not, and I know I'm not supposed to say this a lot, but they do miss a lot of school. And I shouldn't be telling this to the school board, but that's what golfers do, right? Boys and girls golf team, the boys more so than the girls, but they do miss it because that's when they are able to get onto the courses that they travel. So not only are they amazing, nice people, but they are talented athletes, and they're pretty smart because they are gone from school. Jeffrey and Nolan do a really good job. They work with me, not that we've ever had an issue, but they do put a priority on academics, and that's what we appreciate so much about Jeffrey and Nolan. Unfortunately, head coach Nolan, he is not golfing. He is actually in a gym coaching. He coaches a boys basketball team, so he couldn't be here, but Jeffrey was here. So on the All-State honoree team, Emma Olson, Addie Gable, Gwen Mahoney, Ella Fager, and unfortunately Kate Donaldson is not able to be here tonight, but Kate Donaldson was our 5th. And just one other note aside from this, just a reminder, I'm not sure if you've talked about it at previous meetings, but this team made history, and they did a back-to-back sectional appearance, which has never been done in Mount Horeb. And when I first started, I think we had maybe 4 golfers. And that's a lot of credit to Nolan and Jeffrey. They've worked really hard to get the golf team up where we have some really good numbers. But it's also kudos to the girls because they walk around in school wearing their golf shirts. They wear it with pride. They are excited to be on the team. It's pretty cool. So, and we also did have, I checked, we had our conference meet towards the end of the season, 3rd place in a really tough conference, and Ella Fager was an all-conference award winner. So they have a bright future ahead of them. I'm really excited to see how how they will do in the future years. So kudos to them and their parents, and thank you guys for all that you do for them.
We have a nice plaque or award that we'd like to give to the board or to you guys. And we would like to take a picture, if that's okay, outside. So thank you for your work and everything you've done. You ready?
All right, we're going to go take, we'll be right back. We'll stay here. Hold tight.
Outside.
Yeah, we'll just do it out in the hallway.
Oh, in the hall, okay.
I'll just leave it there.
Deal with the cup. I'll just leave it there.
After you insist.
So what's new?
Light agenda tonight.
Well, yeah. If we work through it quickly.
You can do it, guys.
Pretty good right now. That's my first college visit. Just read it. Just massive. Yeah. I had my first. Yeah, I'm read it. Awesome. That was fun. It was a tour thing, but also I went to a couple different sessions for the different schools.
I know.
My mom was at the university. Oh, I went to the computer science center meeting and then letters and science, which was like the whole part.
All right, moving on to 3B, school news. Would you like to start school news, or would you like Ethan to start?
How about Ethan start and I'll fill in?
So we have a couple things today. Our music department started all of our extracurriculars. So we have the jazz band, the fiddle band, and then the choir groups too. And then 2 of our esports teams are in the playoffs now, and that's starting next week for those. And then at this afternoon we had an equality and inclusivity meeting with Nehemiah that I was at, and so was Brian over there. And we had some students come into the organization. We had some pretty good conversation about how we could improve our school and have better conversations.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ethan.
So the only additions that I had are winter sports have also begun, so good luck to all of those teams. For the middle school, wrestling and boys basketball are well underway. 6th grade band members had their first concert ever this past week. The knitting clubs has started last week, and forensics and game club will be starting soon. So lots of exciting things happening all over.
Lots of great things. Board members, any school news? All right, we'll move on to 3C, citizens' comments.
There's nobody on the list.
I don't see anybody that would like to give a citizen's comment either. So we'll move on to 4, personnel transactions.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Rod, seconded by Jessica. Further discussion? Anything of note in the personnel transactions?
Nope.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to consent agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to pull out? I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
A second. Motion by Jim, seconded by Jessica. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, I was just looking at, that must be right there. Yeah. Thank you very much.
We're just going to hand that off. Colleen stayed for that, so for the wrestling cooperative. All right, moving on to 6, our discussion items. So 6A is our committee member reports, but neither Leah nor Carly are here, so we are going to, and I don't think that the facilities, community and legislative engagement or the facilities committee met since the last time this was on the agenda, so that would need an update, and the education minutes are in the packet. So we can move on to 6B, our information and advocacy report. Percent of students achieving in comparison to grade level peers. Sarah Straka.
That was fast. Well, we had our Board of Ed data retreat, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago? So I thought, okay, well, what do I present? I just went through a good amount of data. So I went back to the spirit of what this advocacy report is on. Looking at growth is one half of it, and looking at then achievement is the other half. So for the first half, the percent of students growing from their previous results. Brian, would you go to page 2 for me, please? Thank you. Perfect, yep, and that visual. I appreciate it, thank you. So this visual represents our FastBridge data. For figure 1 is math, and figure 2 is reading. And this looks at the growth that our students have seen from fall to spring over the course of last school year, 21-22 school year. And there's, excuse me, 4 types of bar graphs. The darker pink, if you want to call it pink, the darker color on the left, would be those students who had flat growth. They didn't really do anything from fall to spring. The lighter pinkish color was modest growth. Then the darker purple represents typical growth, and then the lighter purple represents aggressive growth. So we can see the various grade levels for these cohorts last year, how they grew. And one telling or one piece that jumped out to me was the 3rd grade data. And looking at that growth there, I'd have to gather more years, like this year's data and maybe next year's data, to really look at trends to see, is it something going on within the grade level itself, or for grade 3 especially, is this an outcome due to COVID? Those kiddos are really seeing jumps now. They have a stable year, and they're our youngest learners on those foundational skills. But overall, the typical, which is the darker purple, and the aggressive, which is the lighter purple, I really need to see over time. And talking with Ed O'Connor from CISA 2, he is also a FastBridge consultant, and we talked through this data a little bit, and I picked his brain, and what he had shared with me is usually you want to see a 50% threshold of students who meet that typical or aggressive growth. And adding up all of the light purple and dark purple bar graphs for each grade level, we're definitely above and beyond our grade levels. So we are seeing really nice growth for our students, especially at that 3rd grade level as well. Kids are getting what they need to keep growing, which is nice. That's all I have for the growth piece, just a quick visual snapshot.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Wait, no. Keep scrolling. On the very colorful one right there. Yep. Are you going to talk about this, or can
I was not, but let's talk about it.
I just had an observation, and maybe I'm just looking at it incorrectly. But it looked like, now, it's only those years. It's not expanded beyond those. But it almost, I was getting the sense that across the years, when we got to 7th and 8th grade, and then maybe further down, didn't we have science? No, this one right here. This is what I was looking at. Sorry.
Table 1 and 2?
Yeah, one on table 1 and 2. It seemed like when we got to 7th and 8th grade, there was always a drop in like all the different years. And I just wondered if that was something that was noticeable to other people. It was something that we should pay attention to. But it seemed like, the numbers were either maintaining or increasing. But when we got to 7th and 8th grade, it seemed like there was always a drop.
Yeah, we see. Well, you're looking at the cohort data, so you're following
Yeah,
the
so I'm
through.
trying to follow the colors. Yes,
Yep,
the cohorts.
Yep,
yes.
cohort data.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, Brian, we probably don't have to click on the other link I had just above it. We could probably leave that alone. But the local peers, we talked about at the data retreat as well that we had a couple weeks ago, and that seemed to be relatively the same trend across the state or across at least our Badger Conference and surrounding communities once they hit those upper middle school levels. Mm-hmm. The achievement level, the proficiency level did seem to dip in general.
I don't know if it's that, you would know this, and I wouldn't, but, if it's that the elementary and the middle school curriculum aren't more closely aligned so that there's gaps in what, like they're learning, it's not necessarily building on what they learned or what the reasoning is. But anyways, it was something that I...
Correct, yeah, that is an observation I've noticed throughout time too. Is it what they're getting, or is it
a shift in what they're learning?
A shift in what they're learning, a shift in student output at that time of year?
True.
For upper grade levels. There's many different factors, but definitely looking at that for the math team. I know Paul Christensen and I had a conversation about looking at the data specifically. We can do item analysis. So he gave the 6th, 7th, 8th grade math teachers their item analysis that we'll eventually get to this year to talk through where are those gaps. Are there certain standards that we're not hitting at those grade levels? So we are digging deeper into that piece of it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I feel bad asking you anything when you aren't feeling well.
It's okay. It's that time of year for everybody. Thanks, Brian.
Good job.
Yeah. And then, like I said, for the proficiency piece, the percent of students achieving in comparison to their grade level peers, we talked about this data already at our data retreat. So I want to present our Mount Horeb data all in one spot for the ACT scores on a visual. I do have a yellow line there, and that yellow line does represent when, Diana, you had that question at the data retreat, you had that observation, when students were required, all students were required to take the ACT. And you have the state data and the district data there for English, math, reading, science, and then the composite. I ironically, last week, soon after our data retreat, came across an article talking about, as we've talked about, colleges, many colleges are not necessarily requiring the ACT for admission, but this article talked about maybe the pendulum swinging back, because nationally, you logged in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go to that incarnation?
This one?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, there's a chart. You can scroll down for me, Brian. There you go. Thanks, right there. Scroll up just a tad. So thank you. Just looking at the ACT college entrance exams and the composite scores, and over time, you can see from 91 to current year how, again, it's a 5-point increment scale on the left, so just be aware of that. But how scores, and the composite score has declined. And when we look back to my report now, we see that at the state level, the composite on the far right 2 columns, the district and state, we do see that our composite going down. It's not near as what we saw nationally in that previous chart or at the state level, but we do see that shift a bit as well. Not as drastic, I would say, as if you look at from 2016 to 2021. Not as drastic of a drop, but overall, we're actually relatively the same for us. We do see a little dip in the state, so I thought that was an added piece of information that we talked about from last time. Pretty simple report, like I said, because we had a bit more thorough discussion a couple weeks ago. Just don't really, this report sort of syncs with those board retreats, so get a little tighter next time. That's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any questions for Sarah?
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Don't go too far.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's right.
You got the next one too. Okay, so moving on to our action items. 7A is consideration of the 4K contracts.
Yeah.
And Sarah, this year again?
Yeah, so every year at this time of year, Education Committee discusses the MH4K contracts. We have 2 contracts that we typically provide to the board. We have our universal contract, which is not this one, but that's okay, a universal contract, which 3 of our sites receive from us: Agape, Hearts and Hands, and Little Vikings, Academy of Little Vikings. And then we have the version in front of you for Children's Community Schools, CCS. The reason why we present 2 versions is because the CCS, the only difference in CCS has to do with the number of students allowed per class. Since it is a Montessori program, we want to honor and recognize the multi-age aspect of their classrooms. And they typically try to have 7, 7, and 7. 7 3-ish, 7 4-ish, and 7 5-ish year olds in their program structure. That decision was made to allow that many years ago, probably 2000, when it first was awarded. And all 4 partners agreed that that would be okay to have 2 different versions of contracts. So Education Committee approved this contract to move forward to the full board for consideration tonight. And that's what we're presenting to you all for consideration. But you have forum, can you move forward?
We have a forum.
Okay.
Motion to approve both.
I will
Second.
second that.
Motion by Jessica, seconded by Jim. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Sarah.
All the partners out. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to 7B, consideration of storage area network quotes.
Yeah, so we have 3 quotes. This was referred by the Finance Committee. When you look just in general at the quote, it looks like one is cheaper. However, Ampro is overall the cheaper quote because it includes all of the networking gear that comes with it. And so overall, when you put them together, the Ampro data, which is the recommended quote, is all around the cheaper, lowest price option.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions? I will entertain a motion.
So moved to approve.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Rod. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 8, citizens' comments. Okay, seeing none, I will move on to 9. Future agenda items are listed. If you have anything you would like to get on the agenda, as always, please let us know. Moving on to 10, schedule of next meetings. Is there anything to note?
I would just note that the Education and Safety and Wellness Committee are a joint meeting, and it'll be Monday, December 5th. And if I remember right, that's our only meeting, our one meeting for the month.
Yep. Great. Moving on to 11.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Rod, seconded by Jessica. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.